Ahead of the talks between the national security advisors of India and Pakistan, the situation on the line of control in parts of the IB in Jammu and Kashmir is extremely tense, to put it mildly. To tell us about what the exact situation is, we are very privileged to be joined by the Corps Commander of the 16th Corps. Thank you, sir, very much, General Nimbhorkar, for speaking to us. What is the situation today? We are told that there have been at least 4 ceasefire violations.
You are right. There has been a spate of ceasefire violations for last couple of days, and today also there was a ceasefire violation in the morning, and it continued till about afternoon.
Right, and this is in Balakot, is it, sir?
Yeah, this is in Balakot area today, and
it's continuing as we speak, in fact.
Absolutely, it is now it is tapered down, and probably it has now come to a standstill.
How intense was it?
It was pretty intense. It was, if you compare it with last 2-3 days, I can put it that it has been the similar level. Last 3-4 days, in fact, it started from 10th or so. So whatever it was there, it is carrying on the same level, a little going upward sometimes and going downward sometimes.
And sir, any word on casualties in Balakot so far?
On 15th of August, as you know, we
Yes.
had casualties of civilians, some fatal and some non-fatal. Apart from that, we had no casualties. No casualties to our boys, no casualties to other civilians.
Right.
So these were the only casualties on 15th of.
And today's casualty count, you don't know if there are any?
As of now, I don't know. Probably as of now, and seeing from the experience, I don't think we have had any casualties.
Right.
But I can't say because I have not taken the stock of the situation so far.
Yeah. General, when you talk about the intensity of these exchanges, in layman's term, how intense has it been over, let's say, the last 1 week?
One can say in a layman's term, if you find the ceasefire violations, they are of the similar nature. One can't say whether that's too intense or less intense. Only the ammunition expenditure goes up and down. As far as caliber of weapons used, they have been using the similar kind of weapons. We also been retaliating with a similar caliber. So to say the intensity is more or less, one can't actually calibrate it that way. So there, but I can say that intensity is pretty high for last about a couple of days.
So, sir, they use 120 millimeter heavy mortar, which in our category, we don't categorize that as a mortar, we categorize that within artillery, is that right?
You can say in a layman's term, it does come in the class of artillery because it has got a higher HE content, much more than our 81 millimeter mortars. In fact, one can say about 2.5 times the HE content, and the range is also a little more.
Right, and what is the range of what they are firing?
Range is
These
about
heavy mortars that we are speaking about.
Is about 8 to 10 kilometers.
So they are targeting us almost, depending from where it's being fired, as much as close to 10 kilometers in depth in our positions.
You can't put it that way. You see,
it depends on where they're firing.
It depends where they fire.
Right.
If they're firing from behind, then they're as much as our mortars if you deploy our mortars ahead. But what the point here is, the content, HE content, when it falls on the ground, the damage it causes is about 2.5 times more than the 81 millimeter mortars which we use, which is the infantry weapon.
So how is an airburst of this weapon system potentially devastating for civilian populations and for the army?
See, airburst, again in the layman's language, if you say, any airburst which occurs over any area, it is very devastating because it has got potential to cause a lot of damage because of the splinters it throws. When it lands on the ground, the splinter go in about, say, 35 to 45 degrees. But here, airburst, the splinters are all around, and therefore anyone in the area where it bursts will get hit. So therefore, air burst is very, very dangerous as compared to the ground burst.
Right. General, are they directly targeting our civilians?
This is a difficult question, but I can tell you on the 15th of August, they did fire onto our civilians, wherein only the civilians died. So that actually brings us to the conclusion they have targeted our civilian area. We consider it is highly unethical, improper, immoral, and unprofessional. It is professional armies don't do this.
Right. And General, they say that we've done the same thing.
See, as I said, ours is a very professional army. We are proud of the fact that we are army men, and we go by the tenets of ceasefire violations which have been agreed between both the countries. And I can assure you we don't involve in this kind of rhetorics.
We do not target civilians.
We do not target civilian population.
Right.
That much I can say with confidence.
All right. So as a result of this intense situation in your area of operations and your command, what is it like for our Jawans on the front, the men you command? It's obviously a very difficult experience for them. They are on a full state of alert. Can you describe to us what exactly is happening on the line of control as far as our army formations are concerned?
I am very proud to say that our armed forces, our Jawans are very alert and very, very well motivated. Our officers, JCOs are going to their bunkers and sitting with them, are leading by examples. Jawan, in spite of continuous ceasefire violation, they are not losing their morale, they are happy, and they are wanting to do the job with full intensity and alertness. As you see, you already gone to the LC and found that the life on LC is not easy.
No.
It is 24/7 job, and they are doing without any complaints and with very high morale. And as a gratitude, we also lead them the same way. When we undergo the same miseries as they are going, they feel that the leaders are competent to lead them.
And that's your basic ethos, that you lead from the front.
Absolutely.
And you do that personally, sir, in going to all of the areas on forward positions.
I can say with pride again, in Indian Army, we say that we lead by example. All our young officers and all, they want to undergo the same difficulties as that of the men. And this is, one can say, is our ethos and can say our USP. And
Right.
that's why I think we can say the army is one of the best armies of the world.
General, do you believe that it's just a coincidence that a few days from now we are going to have NSA level talks and they have stepped up their firing?
I can't really combine these things or relate both these things together, but having seen the earlier history of our neighbor, whenever something of this nature happens, and if you go back and see, do a little bit of analysis, something of this always happens, some kind of retaliation or some activity from their side, may not be LC, somewhere else. So one can say yes or no, but probably more towards yes, maybe possible, and I really don't know what are his ulterior motives, but yes, he can do that.
Do you think his or Pakistan's ulterior motive is to stall the process of peace between our countries?
It's very difficult questions for me to answer. But as I said, if you analyze, probably some similar things have happened in the past also. So one can extrapolate this and apply the same template to this, and maybe I can say, but I can't say with complete guarantee that this is
This is what is happening. General, let's talk a little bit about terrorism. We've had Naved, the terrorist referred to as Kasab 2 by so many people, actually come into this sector, into the 16 Corps area where he was apprehended, very fortunately. But is there a real fear that this area is also potentially vulnerable in terms of terrorists entering?
See, if you go back in the history of terrorism in 15 and 16 Corps, 16 precisely south of Pir Panjal and 15 in the valley. In 16 Corps, the terrorist activities have been very less after the arc of militancy was rolled over in the valley, and there was very, very less activities in the south of Pir Panjal. Therefore, it is their endeavor that they bring back this arc of militancy towards south of Pir Panjal. And therefore, you are absolutely right, they will try their best to spread their wings this side. But as far as we are concerned, we have troops on ground, we have got our various professional activities being conducted to stop this. And I can say with confidence, we have been able to do our job to the fullest extent.
Yeah. General, and I know you don't want to get into technical specifics on this, but again, in broader terms, we have a multi-tiered defense on the LC, right, and the IB against terrorist infiltration.
Absolutely right. We have multi-tiered defense. Our main, the one can say, weapon or which has actually helped us is the AIOS, anti-infiltration obstacle system, or LC fence as you call in layman term. In 16 core, it is being very well guarded because of the terrain. The terrain is most of the times is favorable to us, and in fact, we can say we got enough boots on ground, and the patrolling intensity is such, the frequency is such that within about say 2 to 3 minutes we cover each and every portion of the LC. Therefore, if you see, last about 3 to 4 years, you hardly find any infiltration from south of Pir Panjal, and that is one of the greatest clause which has actually helped us in controlling the terrorism this side.
Right. General, we saw the terrorist attack in Gurdaspur. That's of course further south. But is there a worry that Pakistan or elements in Pakistan may be targeting further south than the traditional hotbed of the valley, and therefore there are parts of your corps as well of which have plains, not just the hills. So the terrain is very varied in the 16 corps area. Do you believe that there are areas that are of concern to you?
See, our terrain, as you say, is varied. We have got plains in the down below southern portion of us. Then we have got a hilly terrain, and then very hilly terrain and the high altitude terrain. So for every terrain, we have got a different methodology. If you say in the plain sector, as you mentioned, our boots on the ground are more because that requires that much of patrolling intensity. Whereas hilly sector is concerned, we can observe from a little more distance, and with the night sights and other equipment which we have got, we are able to take care of it even with a larger dispersion.
Right.
So we have got for every area we have got a different methodology, and as I say again, and I am quite happy to say that our methodology has worked and it has been quite successful.
And sir, the fence itself is being upgraded over a period of time. I mean, that is the first line of defense.
Yes, the fence is upgraded time and again, and whenever in the say higher reaches, it because of the snow condition and all, it breaks down. So we are prompt whenever the snow melts in again erecting it.
Right.
So therefore, the viability of fence is always maintained.
Right. Sir, a few more questions. You have had a long experience in CI ops, counterinsurgency operations in Jammu and Kashmir. Sir, speaking as a soldier, sir, how have you seen the face of terrorism change in terms of the capability of the men coming across?
This is a question one has to go back to 1991, wherein the terrorists, so-called terrorists, bulk of them were local terrorists. One felt that they were not so well trained. I think they just went across and came and thought that as they call Azadi or something is around the corner, and then we had to fight through it. But they were not that well trained. Subsequently, the foreign elements started coming in, which were a little hardened, and they were better trained and they gave a better fight. And now, last about 6 to 7 years, you find where most of the infiltrating columns are basically the terrorists from LET or JEM. They are well trained in a sense. When after interrogation we find they are trained by the LET in various camps. So to that extent, for fighting they are quite well trained. I can't say they are as much trained as us, but they also have inculcated and adopted the technology. As you see, they are using GPSs to go from one point to another, and also the communication systems they are using, so that they won't that their communications should not be intercepted. So these are certain advances they have done, but also I can assure you we are always a step ahead of them, and therefore we can always take care, and you find that both in the valley, mostly in the valley, the terrorism is only at subcritical level.
Right. General, one of the points that we saw when, as far as this Kasab 2 or Naved was concerned, was just shortly after he was captured, he was deliberately going about the process of misleading our interrogators. To many of us who actually reported this story, it seemed that this was a very skilled person who was psychologically able to deal with the scenario, to try and mislead his interrogators. Obviously, the people, one could assume, are not just militarily proficient, but are also mentally tough, and that changes the nature of the battle, doesn't it?
I have not heard him personally, but I only saw from the TV reports and all. But what one finds when he spoke initially, he gave his linkage to Pakistan very, very clearly. And he's told that he's come from Pakistan. Who were his handlers? How did he
He
come?
kept changing his name, for example.
That was one thing
He
which
kept
is
changing his
quite,
account to where he came
yeah,
in.
he
and things like
he
that.
kept changing his name, but from where he came from, I think he was quite firm in that. And how did he operate that? Also, he was quite firm. We got mostly from your channel only.
Right.
We saw what all he has done. So it all matches with the modus operandi of the people coming across. And as far as physical or psychological hardening is concerned, some kind of a religious indoctrination might have been there. But to say a fully hardened psychologically, I don't tend to agree with this.
Right. General, last couple of questions. It's so nice to chat with you on all of these points. In terms of broad trends, ceasefire, cross-border shelling and the like, is it worse this year than it was, say, last year?
I don't think so. It is, I think it's the same level which was at the last level last year, and we are now about 8th month already there. So if you compare it, you can put it at the same levels, or maybe sometimes some month it is little more, some months it is less. So it is if you finally go to the bottom line, I can say it is the same.
General, are you fully ready in the days ahead of the National Security Advisors meet to meet any challenge in your core?
That I can assure you, fully, that we are fully geared up to do our job, whatever may be the consequences, whatever may be the circumstances. We are ready, we are alert 24/7, and I can assure you, with pride in my profession, we are absolutely engaged on the ground and doing our job to the best of our ability.
General Nimbhorkar, pleasure speaking to you. Well, there you have it, the Corps Commander of 16 Corps telling us that his men are ready on the ground, his officers and Jawans are fully ready to meet the threat. But of course also telling us about the nature of the fight right now on the line of control, where the Indian Army remains alert.